Hi, I'm back. So I was trying to use this thing over here, DJI, I think it's called, but it didn't sound very good. It sounded kind of like you could hear my echoes in my house. So I turned back to my headphones, my AirPods, which I think sound a little bit better. I'm doing like the thirds, the grid on my video camera. So I'm trying to stay within my third line or my second third line to see if it's visually more appealing. I don't know. All right, so I hope you guys are having a good week. How's my week going so far? It's going all right, you know. I think the main thing for me is that once I get my house in order, it's hard to keep going for me. It really is. Like right now, I cleaned up. You know what has been a huge saver for me? The Robo Vacuum. And I don't have a dishwasher. And I'm thinking, I wonder if I should like figure out how to get one installed, or if I should get one of those that you can like install through your sink. Because I had somebody that did that. Because dishes pile up. Even if you don't cook, they pile up because kids are always eating. And last night I didn't cook and I still had a bunch of dishes to wash this morning. And it gets really tiring washing the dishes all the time. I can see why some people say I couldn't live without my dishwasher. I mean, even though I've never had one, I think that I can maybe relate. I'm thinking, is having a dishwasher the same as what I feel like now that I have my Robo Vacuum? I wonder. I'm gonna do some research on it. So that's what I need to do, some research on. And then I'm pumping myself up for another video of the Big Five because, and I know it can be a little boring right now because I'm going through the history of the Big Five, but again, I'm doing it so that I'm more knowledgeable about the history of it and how it all came about. And also for you guys out there that need more reassurance, you know? So I'm gonna read this little thing that I have back in the day that I wrote. I hope I have it saved. Oh my goodness. It's something about how I'm not a psychologist and that whatever I'm reading is my story, not to be taken, you know, as psychological advice. So let me see. Where's my paper? Where's my little paper? Yeesh, I don't have it. I don't have it on here. I don't know where I left it. Oh, it's over here. All right, so let me read this to you really quick. Thank you so much for being here. This video is my personal story, just me sharing my own experiences, my thoughts, and the things that I've been learning and going through. It is not psychological advice, therapy, or professional guidance of any kind. I'm not a licensed therapist or counselor, and nothing I share is meant to replace professional help. Everyone's journey is different, so please take what resonates and leave the rest. If you're struggling, I encourage you to reach out to a qualified professional who can support you. This is simply my heart, my truth, and my story. I hope it brings you some comfort or connection. Thank you for listening. All right, so, and I'm gonna go back to the history a little bit to kind of redo it for myself too, about how the Big Five came about. Okay, so it all started, guess when? 1884. 1884 with Sir Francis Galton. And he is the first person that, it was whenever psychology was new. And there were many people out there that wanted to make it more scientific. So he put out the idea of looking through the dictionary and finding adjectives that describe human personality, because if it's important enough, it will have a word for it, right? It's going to be in the dictionary. So it was since 1884 this idea started. Throughout history, different researchers and psychologists have taken on that, what would you say, theory, idea. Okay, so we went from 500,000 words to 18,000 words to 4,500,000 words to 16 words, and now we're at 5 words. 5 words that describe human personality. Do you do you see this? Do you see how Now, if you're one of those people that want, like, genuinely from your heart wants to understand why people are the way they are, this is studying the Big Five is gonna just like open up to so many understandings of your patterns as a human being, of your family patterns, of just so many things. And that's what happened to me. So that is why I want to share this with you, because this is the crazy part. Well, not so crazy, but just like really amazing part, that whenever I started, like, the reason that, okay, let me give you a little backstory. I've always been really interested in human personality all my life. Why did I not major in psychology in college? I don't know. I really don't know. It was God. Because probably if I had majored and I became a psychologist, I probably wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now, because I'd be scared that I would be like sharing too much or something. I don't know. I didn't. I majored in marketing, business marketing, merchandising. And so, and when I was in college, psychology, I took a psychology course and I really enjoyed it. But I was, I think, in my third year of college. And I did not like college. I hated college. It was so stressful for me. And so I was like, I'm not gonna take more classes just because I want to change majors. I was like, no, it's too much money and it's too much time and it's too much stress. I don't want to be here more than I have to. So I never changed majors. But I've always been interested in understanding people and understanding myself, understanding everyone else around me. And so because of that, when, you know, fast forward me having kids, and then I had a travel agency job that I was there for a while, but then I believe I left it because my mom was going to start a business and I wanted to help her. And then I got pregnant, I think, and that's when I started being home. And so anyways, while I do cleaning in my house, while I'm doing the mundane things of every day, I always love to listen to podcasts. Always, you know, I love to listen to whatever I find on YouTube or on podcasts. Well, I was able to find Jordan Peterson. Okay, so I started listening to Jordan Peterson, and I was just so amazed in the way that he was able to connect everything. He was able to connect science, psychology, and Bible. Like, I've never had anyone that was able to present ideas in such a, what would you say, scientific way, right? It wasn't just like, because I grew up, I'm from Mexico. I came to the United States when I was 8. And so in Mexico, in my rural town, you know, when people are religious, you don't really ask the why. Like, if, you know, you have certain questions about religion, it's just like, if you ask anybody, they're just like, it's just the way that it is. You don't ask questions, you know? And I always ask questions. That was me. I've always been known, anyone that knows me in my family knows that I've been the person that asked questions all the time. So when Jordan Peterson came into my life, it was the first person that was able to connect psychology to the Bible. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing. So I really got into him. I was going through his lectures and stuff. And so in one of his lectures, he was talking about personality psychology, that this is the biggest one that has the most data, that it has so much data compared to any field of psychology. I think the only other one is clinical psychology, that has a lot of data, but personality psychology has so much information. And so, and he said in one of his talks, if you really want to know about yourself, then you can take an assessment. It's 100 questions. It's on my website, understandmyself.com. The test is $10. And you are going to know how you are as a person. But be careful when you take it, because not everyone wants to know the truth of their personality. You think you want to know the truth, but when you are presented with the truth, not everyone's happy about it. And I was like, what? And before that, I've always been interested in personality assessments, the Big Five love languages, the Clutterbug. That one's really good, about how you like to your home order. All right, so he said that, right? So he said, now don't, a lot of people don't want to know the truth. That's what he said. And so even before I found Jordan Peterson, I always was really interested in self-assessment quizzes, like the 5 love languages. That one was really impactful for me because I was like, oh, okay, this is how I can love other people. Then there was the one that I was like, that was just the most closest one to the big 5 was the 4 tendencies from Gretchen Rubin: obliger, upholder, questioner, and rebel. That one was very eye-opening for me. I felt like I was getting closer to understanding a little bit more about human personality, you know, with that one. And of course, I'm always learning. I'm not gonna, you know, not an expert, of course. I'm not even a psychologist, but but I know a lot about this stuff now because I've been doing it. I've been studying a lot. And I just don't study it. I apply it to my everyday, and I apply it to the humans that are around me. And I think, again, when you apply things like this, you're able to understand them more and understand their little nuances of the traits. Okay, so and then so I took the questionnaire. Okay, I went on his website. Now, this is something that I found out that's new that I didn't know, is that the 100 questions on Jordan Peterson's website are actually, you can take the questionnaire for free through Colin DeYoung's website, like on his professor, this one, because he's the one that created the questionnaire. Okay, Jordan Peterson, what he does though is that if you don't know much about the big 5, you will get your results, and then he will give you a really long PDF file format to try to explain to you what it means, what those scores are. So that's what I did. And so whenever I took my questionnaire, I was just like so amazed. I was so amazed. And I will tell you the one that was just so impactful for me. Oh gosh, I wish I had my test. Where? I think it's downstairs. Actually, let me see. I didn't find it, but I know the results. I don't have to get the paper itself. Okay, the biggest one that I understood more than any other one. I think I'm jumping the gun a little bit. So let me first tell you. Okay, so the last article I told you about was about Jung. So he was the next one that after 1985, he's the one that advanced the big 5 a lot more, okay? He advanced it a lot more because what did he do? The first thing that he did is that whenever the big 5 came about, people thought that these 5 traits just were right next to each other. They knew there was some type of correlation between them, but there was not enough data, or nobody had really studied it to understand that. So again, the big 5 traits are agreeableness, conscientiousness, extroversion, neuroticism, and openness. These are the big 5 traits. These are the traits that if you know, like if people take the exam, it will tell them who you are as a person and the motivators underneath their behaviors. Okay, it gives you like an architectural map of the individual. Like it really does. And even if so when he came about, he with Jordan Peterson and another person named I think it's a she, I don't know, Lewis, maybe not, Lewis Quincy, maybe it's a he. The first thing that they did was they wrote an article about, it's called Stability and Plasticity. And I said that he found out that the 5 traits do correlate, that we have what's called stability, what makes someone stable as a human being. And stability is what is prized in society, okay? That somebody is high agreeableness, which means that you get along with everyone and then you follow the rules. High conscientiousness. Conscientiousness means that you are a hard worker and that you keep order, okay? So you follow through with what you're going to say you're going to do, and then you show up for your job. And then low neuroticism. Neuroticism is how you react to negative emotions, anxiety, depression, anger, what else? Impulsiveness, okay? So to be a stable individual, you have these 3. You have high agreeableness, high conscientiousness, low neuroticism. That guarantees that as you are an adult in life, you will most likely have a stable life, okay? You will contribute positive to society. Now, those are 3 traits. We have 5, right? The other 2 are openness and extroversion. And those are plasticity. Okay, that's what that means. Plasticity. What is plasticity? Plasticity is reward. How like in your brain is it that you, let me read it back so I don't say something that's not right. So the exploration and growth engine. So if you are high in this, you get an internal reward for doing things. You know what I mean? So if you have high extroversion and high openness, then you have internal drive for curiosity and for like connecting with others. Because in your brain, you see it as a reward. So it's an internal thing, right? Like it actually gives you a hit, like a positive hit in your brain. So that's high plasticity. So what Colin figured out, this is Colin, what he figured out in 2006, along with other researchers and Jordan Peterson, is that the 5 traits do correlate, and that there is, so we have the big 5, right? So we have the big 5, and then we have behaviors, right, underneath, but there's a lot of them too. Like each big 5 has like a bunch of different behaviors, okay? But you can kind of get an idea what each behavior is if you know what each facet is. So like high compassion, so like agreeableness, you get along with people. Like what do you think makes people get along with people? Like you follow rules, you care about the well-being of others, like stuff like that. Like, you know, we can kind of get an idea what that means. So we have behavioral traits, right? And then we have the big 5. What he figured out that there's something above that. And what is that above it is stability and plasticity. So if a person takes a questionnaire and then they score high on agreeableness, high on conscientiousness, low on neuroticism, then that automatically, you know, as maybe the person that's taking it, as what would you say it, as a clinician, right? As a clinician, that, oh, okay, this person is stable. This person has a stable personality. This person gets along with others. This person shows up for work. This person can maintain a work. This person it's not overwhelmed easily with negative things that happen to them in life, okay? And if then they have also high plasticity, which is high extroversion and high openness, it means that, okay, this person is likely to like to connect with others. They're more likely to not get depressed because they actually get a reward and a brain reward from connecting with others. High openness. Okay, this means this person doesn't easily get bored. This person will probably have a more stable cognitive, brain in the future, because they're always trying to figure out other things in life, right? They're not just like, they're curious about the world. So he was able to find that there is stability and plasticity above the big 5. All right, so Colin, so nothing happened for a long time. Then Colin came along, and then he figured out stability and plasticity. So then he was able to say, okay, there is data that tells you that above the big 5, there is this what's called stability and plasticity. So that was one thing, right? And that was, my last video was about that. Now, sorry, I ran out of breath. Okay, so in 2007, 1 year later, the other thing that Colin found out, and this is what that ties it back to the beginning of my story of Jordan Peterson, okay? Because we have stability, plasticity, right? Then we have the big 5. And then after that, we have a lot of behaviors. It's kind of too many to kind of memorize easily in your head. So Colin wanted to find something that was in between the big 5 and the behaviors. He's like, there's maybe something in here where it's a little bit more simple to understand the big 5, to where you don't have to actually know each behavior of each facet to figure out the personality of the individual. He found that there are two, and then he wrote a paper. So he wrote a paper in 2007 called Between Facets and Domains, 10 Aspects of the Big Five. And he wrote that with Lena Quilty and Jordan Peterson in the Journal of Personality and Psychology, which is one of the best ones in the field. And then he also, after figuring this out, he also created the 100 item questionnaire that Jordan Peterson uses on his website, Understand Myself. Now, again, this questionnaire is available through Jordan Peterson's website, where you pay $10, but it also gives you more of a breakdown of what your facets mean or aspects mean. And then, but you can also do the questionnaire for free through Colin's website. He'll send you to a different website where you can take it for free, but it doesn't give you as in-depth analysis. So, but you can do it for free too. Now, to me, after, again, okay, maybe I learned about this maybe in 2016, 2017, all right? And when I took that first questionnaire, so, I don't know. To me, what Colin did was so revolutionary, because it makes you understand the Big Five. You're able to memorize them. You're able to see how even if a person has high extroversion, how that shows up differently depending on the aspects. So what he did is that he found for each of the Big Five, there's 2 aspects of each one, okay? And then those aspects really tell you or differentiate between individuals. Because when you look at the Big Five, it's kind of like, if I tell you, well, I have, high agreeableness, you kind of get an idea. But if you really want to understand certain behaviors a lot more, then knowing the 10 aspects of each individual really gives you a super clear picture of who they are as a human being, okay? And why is this important? The reason this is important for me, and for anyone that's interested in any of this, is because you are going to be able to understand why you do the things that you do, and why those people that you love do the things that they do. And if you are in pain, learning why you do what you do, if you really want to be honest with yourself, if you really want to get to the bottom of the pain that you're having, knowing this will just open up your eyes to the reality of the world, okay? And it will bring clarity to you. It'll bring a lot of clarity to you about maybe why you're hitting the same wall about certain things, or why your significant other, or maybe a parent, or maybe a sibling, why is it that they trigger you so much? Why is it that this person makes you so angry? Why is it that this person hurts you so much? If you're able to understand this, then you're gonna be able to understand the why behind it, okay? So I'll share with you the 10 aspects of the Big Five, okay? So agreeableness. So the 2 things that make up agreeableness are compassion and politeness, okay? Those are the 2 things that make that up. And I wrote something, okay? And then, so agreeableness, compassion. So if we think about compassion, we think about empathy, caring, emotional attunement. Politeness, respect, cooperation, following social rules. And somebody can be low on compassion and very high on politeness, and vice versa, or you can have both very high, or you. And then the thing about the 100 questions is that you are on a scale from 0 to 100. So typical is 50. When you take this questionnaire, your average is 50. So anything below, anything above, you're able to understand. All right? So, and these are all you can have them in different numbers, and all of them are independent of each other. If you have higher agreeableness, it's like that's very independent from extroversion. You see what I mean? So that's agreeableness. So agreeableness is made out of compassion and politeness. Then you have extroversion, and that's made out of enthusiasm and assertiveness, okay? Conscientiousness. All right, I'm gonna go through them again. All right, so the 5, so underneath each of them, so what Colin figured out is that we have stability and we have plasticity. Then we have the big 5, but in between the big 5 and the behaviors, we have also the 10 aspects. And so what are the 10 aspects? I'm going to tell them to you. So for agreeableness, we have compassion and politeness. For extroversion, we have enthusiasm and assertiveness. Conscientiousness, we have industriousness and orderliness. And for neuroticism, we have withdrawal, volatility. And then for openness, we have intellect and aesthetics. And all of these, and this is something that I have to like keep, reminding myself, okay? That all of these 10 aspects have an outside, an internal, and external behavior or feeling, okay? Because you would think, because like your brain wants to, like, let's say, I'll give you an easy one. So for orderliness, when I took the exam or the questionnaire, my orderliness is very high. But I would always think about it as an outside thing, like my material things, like, oh, I like order. So if I'm very high in order, whenever my surroundings are very chaotic, I eventually get in a terrible mood. Or I start feeling stressed, overwhelmed, you know, all of that. And I used to think, oh, that was just material things. But no, orderliness also plays internally. So that's another thing that orderly, so all of these aspects also have an external and an internal feeling, okay? And I'm gonna go through them with you. So agreeableness, okay? So compassion, internal, deep empathy, feeling others' pain as your own, strong urge to care and alleviate suffering, can feel heavy or luminous in the heart. Okay, that's internally. What does that mean? Somebody tells you a story, you see something on the news, you see somebody suffering. That hurts you. Like, it really hurts you seeing that. So it's not easy for you to read stories or see stories or know anything bad that really happened to people. Because that, like, it really is heavy in your heart, you know? That's internal. External, how does that show up externally? Nurturing, supportive, forgiving, emotionally available, often the person others turn to in crisis. Okay, so that's compassion. Compassion, again, is part of agreeableness. Politeness, this is the other part of agreeableness. Internal, strong sense of respect, desire for harmony, discomfort with conflict or rudeness, feels like a calm, orderly restraint. Externally, how does that show up externally? Following social rules, being courteous, avoiding drama, maintaining relationships smoothly. That is how it shows up externally, okay? That's part of agreeableness. Okay, so we have agreeableness. Then the next one is extroversion, okay? Extroversion is made up of 2. I went up the stairs, I'm out of breath. Enthusiasm, okay, that's one of them. Internally, enthusiasm, warmth, positive emotions, sociability, feeling excited about people and life. Feels like a bright, glowing energy in the chest. External, outgoing, expressive, makes others feel good, builds connections easily, often the life of the party or warm friend. There's like a... Okay. Let me fix myself. Okay. Assertiveness. I'm trying to... Sorry, guys. I know I'm a little shaky right now. Okay, so let's see. All right. Assertiveness. So again, extroversion has two things. Enthusiasm and assertiveness. What's assertiveness? Internally, assertiveness is sense of personal power, confidence in expressing needs, drive to lead or speak up, feels like a strong grounded energy in the solar plexus, like in your gut. You have like strong, like it's strong there when you're speaking your truth, right? It's like, that's assertiveness. The thing is though, that sometimes people are assertive without being compassionate. And that comes out as cold, dismissive, hurts your feelings, and they don't care because they're only speaking their truth without regard of how that's going to make you feel. Okay? So, assertiveness. Internal. Now the external is leadership, setting boundaries, going after goals, speaking up, the steering wheel of personality. Where does your personality lead you? That's assertiveness. Okay, assertiveness. So we went through agreeableness, extroversion. Third one, conscientiousness. Such a big word. Conscientiousness. Okay, conscientiousness is made up of two things. Conscientiousness is your work ethic. I think I can like describe it as that. So it's made up of two things, industriousness and orderliness. Now industriousness, internal, okay? Drive, sense of purpose, motivation to achieve and improve, feels like forward moving energy and satisfaction from progress. You get a deep sense of satisfaction when you achieve things. And this one, my friends, is the one society prizes the most. Hustler culture, going after what you want, blah, 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 blah. But this one, the downfall of having very high industriousness is that that there's such an internal drive to achieve that sometimes you achieve without a fuller purpose. So you achieve thinking that it's going to fill the void in your heart in the future, and then you get to your goal and you still feel empty. You see what I mean? But this one's the sneaky one, I think, because this one is like what society tells you, oh my goodness, if you get to your goals, you're just a go-getter, you're successful, you're top of your game. But this is also when you hear of people that have all the money in the world but are so lonely and so empty inside, and they don't even get along with anyone. Okay, this one is, any of these, I think, taken to any extreme can be bad. But I think with industriousness, I think this one is, because it's so cherished in our society, that I think this one's the most, this is the one that I feel like is maybe the most sneaky one, maybe, in a way. You know what I mean? Because you might not stop and think if what you're doing is really gonna fill that void in your heart until you're like later in life. And you still feel that void even after everything you achieved. Because I think of these for celebrities. I really do think about this for celebrities. In order to get to the point of having so much money, I think of people that have a lot of money. And I've always wondered that. Or like people that are really famous and you still see them. Like you still see them like wanting to be the center of attention. And I used to be like, what drives people to still want to like be the center? You know what I mean? After they've had kids, after they've hit a certain age. And it's that they have really high industriousness. And And that's what it is. That's where you see a lot of people being like entrepreneurs, you know, having big time jobs, blah, 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 blah. Anybody that is making it big and they're not, you know, they didn't get wealth from their family, industriousness is probably very high. The other one part of conscientiousness is orderliness. So orderliness is, again, internal, oh no, I'm sorry. I didn't give you the, so industriousness, I gave you the internal, I didn't give you the external. The external is hardworking, goal-oriented, persistent even when things are difficult, okay? That's the industriousness. Orderliness. Again, conscientiousness has two aspects, industriousness and orderliness. Orderliness, internal, need for structure, clarity, and rightness. Creates internal calm when things feel organized, anxiety when chaotic, feels like mental clarity or tension when messy. External, clean environments, routines, strong sense of duty, quote unquote, this is what a good mom wife does. Perfectionism in tasks and roles. All right, the other one is neuroticism. And again, neuroticism, each of the big five has two aspects in between. Those over there. Okay, neuroticism, two aspects. Withdrawal. How does internal? Anxiety, self-consciousness, rumination, tendency to pull back from stress or social situations. Feels like tightness in the chest or wanting to hide. External, avoidance of conflict, social withdrawal, caution, needing lots of alone time to recharge. Okay, neuroticism, the second aspect is volatility. Internal, quick mood shifts, irritability, emotional reactivity, feels like sudden heat or storms in the body. External, emotional outbursts, intense arguments, passionate but unstable expressions of anger or joy. Isn't that interesting? I thought that was interesting. Where you say passionate but unstable expressions of anger, but also joy. Isn't that interesting? Okay. And then the last one is openness. Okay. Openness. Openness has two aspects again, intellect and aesthetics. All right. So intellect, internal, love of ideas, abstract thinking, curiosity about why things work. Feels like mental excitement or hunger for understanding. External, philosophical discussions, learning complex topics, questioning norms. Aesthetics, internal, deep appreciation for beauty, emotion, meaning, art, nature, and the sacred. Feels like awe, warmth, or tears in response to beauty. External, sensitivity to art, music, poetic way of seeing life, spiritual depth, noticing the emotional texture of moments. All right, so I'm gonna leave it at that. Again, in 2007, Colin DeYoung, he's still the researcher, the main researcher that has moved the Big Five forward, with along Lena Quilsey, I believe, and Jordan Peterson, wrote a paper in one of top journals that there are 10 aspects, 2 for each of the Big Five. And what this does, and then they created this questionnaire. Okay, I'm gonna say something else about this. Okay, so about this questionnaire. The beautiful part about, if you're really like serious about understanding this, is that this is free and available to anybody. As long as you know how to use a computer and you know how to use a translator for Google if you want it in your language. That understanding your scores of the 10 facets of the Big Five will give you an architectural map of your personality, okay? And what is that going to do? That is going to give you the answers. If you've, for your entire life, you've been wondering why you are the way you are, okay? Why you make certain decisions, why certain things are difficult for you, why certain things are hard for you. Anything, you can do that, okay, with that test. And it's free. It's free. I mean, it's $10 if you want to do it through Jordan Peterson's website. But if you want to do it through Colin's website, it's completely free. And before that, before this free test, the only way you could know your scores was if you took the like standard test, which is about, I think, $500 or something like that. I don't know. So what does this mean? It makes it available to everyone. It makes it available to everyone that's interested in this, you know? Because this is one of the things that I've learned too, is that not everybody cares. Of course, right? But anyone that cares will look into something like this. You know what I mean? And that's just what's more powerful, because I took therapy for 2 years, and I'm not going to say it didn't help me. It did. It helped me, like, you know, talk to somebody whenever I didn't have anyone to talk to. But one of the things that, for the next video, I'm going to share with you more insights into what my scores were with the assessment, because then this video would be too long, and I need to take care of my toddler. But the biggest one for me, whenever I took this exam or this questionnaire, was my agreeableness score, okay? I scored very high in compassion and very high in politeness, all right? Both of those things were very high for me. And when I read that description that Jordan provided, he said, it's really hard for you to establish boundaries. It's really hard for you to say no to people. It's really hard for you to like express your needs. When I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's why it's so hard for me. Because my compassion and my politeness are so high. It's so hard for me to go against the grain, right? It's so hard for me to, you know, when something bad happens to somebody and like, I want to cry with them. You know what I mean? Like, I feel for them. Like, I genuinely feel for them. It was just like such an awe moment for me, especially that score, I think, because the other ones were a little bit more like nuanced, I think, but that one just like spoke directly to me. I was like, yes, that's me. That's what makes it so difficult for me, because I always wondered. And this ties back to back in the day when I was telling you, was at this bank. It ties back to when I was at the bank and I had to sell things to people. I had to sell them things that I knew weren't good for them, or I knew they didn't need. And it was so hard for me. It was so difficult for me to be aggressive, to be to be a salesperson. It was always so hard for me. And I would see people that were great, and I would be like, why can't I be like that? Why can't I be that way? You know, I would question myself as to why can't I just like do what I need to do and not think so much about it. But when I took that questionnaire, I was like, that's why, because that's what I am. That's who I am. That's just who I am. Now, it took fast forward 10 years later is when I took the 100 questions, I had everybody around me take it because I thought it was so revolutionary. I knew there was something there, but at that time, I didn't have the time to really dig into it. You know what I mean? I knew this was a puzzle to something greater, but I didn't know, like I felt it in my bones. I was like, this is really powerful, but I don't have the time to really look at it and study it and figure it out and all of this until now, guys, until now. So that one was really like huge for me. But on the next video, I'll touch more on the other traits. Okay. But I thought that was just so interesting. You know what I mean? All right, I'm gonna go. I have to order some groceries and do some laundry and all of that other stuff that I have to do for the day. But I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.